Hey everyone, Rho here. Today we discuss the dark legacy of Corax, how it still reverberates today, 10,000 years later. General spoiler warning to begin, as the events we're discussing today are from across the Warhammer 40k universe. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself, without spoilers. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Undoubtedly one of the greatest Primarch fighters, a demigod of a general in his own right, you might expect the legacy of Corax to shine as brightly as his brothers, to be spoken of widely across the Imperium. However, that was never the Raven Lord's way. While he is undoubtedly respected, he would in all likelihood be the most unknown loyal son, especially now some 10,000 years later. The Angel gave his life for the Emperor, Guilliman became the Lord Commander, the sagas of the Wolf King stretch across the stars. But Corax always remained in the shadows. In large part this was simply his nature, which he used to great success. Despite losing the bulk of his legion at Istvan, he still managed to enact a campaign of vengeance against the enemy, denying much needed weapons and reinforcements to the War Master. It would be worthy for this to be his legacy, the tales that are spoken of by Astartes chapters still to this day. However, even now, his mistakes continue to haunt him. We know in his desire to rebuild his legion, to bring the fight back to Horus, Corax turned to his father, the Emperor of Mankind. Returning to the throne world, Corax beseeched him for the knowledge to rebuild his legion. And in a remarkable display of trust, Corax was given it. The Emperor, despite still confined to the Golden Throne, gave Corax the knowledge he sought, and so the Primarch set out to birth the Raven Guard anew. Now we the reader know the truth of those fateful times, how the Alpha Legion denied Corax his wish, forever wounding the heart of the Primarch. Perhaps most tragically, it's still this dark secret that has become Corax's whispered legacy today. One I was personally very surprised to see discussed within the Hall of Dante himself, Lord of the Blood Angels. Now last week we discussed the history between Dante and Gabriel Seth, Chapter Master of the Flesh Tearers. How the devastation of Baal was not the first time the Blood Angels had called upon their successors for aid. How it had happened before due to the Archeo insurrection, a false prophet of Sanguinius causing a nigh-on civil war amongst the chapter, leaving the Blood Angels severely depleted in strength and on the verge of extinction. And these events are told in the Blood Angels Omnibus by James Swallow, which if you're a fan of the Blood Angels I strongly recommend you check out. And in particular to the events of the novel Red Fury, before Dante ultimately decided upon calling out to his cousin chapter masters, he opened a conversation and debate to his inner council, the senior members of the Blood Angels chapter. And here, a sanguinary priest by the name of Casus rather surprisingly brings up the history of the Raven Guard. How in the aftermath of the Istvan massacre, Corax needed to rebuild his legion and do it quickly. And again, I was pretty shocked by this when I first saw it. The history of the Heresy era is such an ancient, almost mythical time. It's become more legend than fact by the 40k era, even when chapters discuss their own Primarch, let alone another bloodline. and even more so that the sanguinary priest appeared to know the actions that Corax undertook during this dark time. Now, there's a bit of consternation and disagreement at this topic being brought up, with clearly some others within the council aware of where this is going to go. Which, again for me, I can't overstate how surprised I am that this knowledge, in some form at least, lives on, especially outside the Raven Guard chapter, as this is far and away not only their most closely guarded secret, but also the darkest moment in their history. However, back to the Blood Angels Council, Dante gives his blessing for the conversation to continue, so the sanguinary priest carries on, revealing that though the Raven Guard guard their secrets, no pun intended, he has managed to uncover some of their history, and most importantly, how Corax replenished some of the Raven Guard's numbers. Now, how he has uncovered this information isn't said, and the details aren't exact, but more or less he speaks the turn of events we all know came to pass. How Corax, with his father's aid, sought to rebuild the Legion, with the use of ancient knowledge and technology. Considering 10,000 years have passed, it's a fairly good account, especially considering it's a history the Raven Guard would not want revealed. However, we then find out there's more than one tale of Corax's dark legacy out there, one that a chaplain by the name of Argastes has heard, from the Sons of Russ. Corax did indeed use the way of replique to bring his legion back from the brink of dissolution, said Argastes, but the road to it was not a smooth one. The Space Wolves speak of creatures that fought amid the Raven Guard's numbers, things more beast than man, throwbacks, monstrous aberrations spawned in error by the very process you suggest we now employ. Well, the Space Wolves do love a good story. In all seriousness, we do know the Space Wolves have witnessed the darker aspects of the Raven Guard in the Battle of Yarant during the Horus Heresy, when Corax came to the aid of his brother Russ in the aftermath of the duel against Horus. So it makes perfect sense that this is the tale passed down through the years, one bequeathed to a brother of the first founding, no doubt around a feasting table in the aftermath of battle. How widespread this knowledge is unknown. Obviously, it mentions the wolves speak of it in hushed whispers, and I think they would. I think it's probably quite telling that it's a Blood Angel who has heard the tale from them as well, as I can easily envisage a Son of Russ speaking of this to a Blood Angel, due to the darker natures shared by both their chapters, remarking that it's not just their bloodlines who have a darker secret. Now, admittedly, the Raven Guards isn't quite the same, but you get the point. Now, it's not known if Dante had any prior knowledge of this history or not, though considering two, no offense to them, but random Blood Angels do, you'd expect Dante to most certainly have at least heard something of it, with over 1,000 years of chapter master rule under his belt, having surely fought several campaigns alongside the Raven Guard and the Space Wolves. As the embodiment of honour that he is, you wouldn't expect him to reveal it even if he did know. Dante's the kind of man who, knowing this is an unwelcome secret, he would simply do them the honour of never talking about it, whether they were present or not. He knows all too well what it's like to harbour a secret. Get a few beers down a Son of Russ, however, well, you can't shut them up. They will talk about pretty much anything. For me, I can't help but feel that it's such a shame that this is a legacy that haunts the Raven Guard still. Though Corax isn't around to know it, he would be pained to know other chapters have knowledge of it, that it's spoken of outside Deliverance. It's the very reason he still fights today, amid the eye of terror, seeking repentance by hunting down his traitor kin. The real tragedy, of course, is that he was not truly responsible. It was the actions of the Alpha Legion. Considering we have seen Corax since the Heresy, we know he is alive and well, hunting down his brother Lorgar. I can't help but feel it'd be great for him to return next, to take the fight back to the enemy in full force, burning away any scars of the past, eradicating the ghosts that haunt him still. The problem is, of course, on just what Corax has become, embracing his warp essence. Far from eradicating those whispers still told, it could all but prove them to any that lay eyes on him. It's a unique position for Corax to be in. While not a curse of the bloodline akin to Sanguinius, the mark of rust that afflicts the Space Wolves, the sons of Corax bear Corax's mantle still, and always will, the scars of their past. Still, his legacy did not end in the fires of Istvan, and it hasn't ended yet. For all the whispers of monsters amid the Raven Guard's past, for all the actions of their Primarch now, they are, have been, and always will be loyal. And while they and their Primarch yet live, their legacy is yet to truly be written, or defined by their past. But as always everyone, what do you think? Are you surprised that this legacy of Corax is still spoken of today, some 10,000 years after the Heresy? That knowledge of the Raven Guard's dark secret still lives on today, that somehow the other chapters still know of it. Is it entirely down to the Space Wolves that knowledge still lives on? Or do you feel there are rumours amidst the other chapters out there that maybe the successors of the Raven Guard bear those curses still, or perhaps are not so shamed of their Primarch's past? Should Corax be defined by this one action, or is his legacy one of a much brighter intent? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.